and welcome to another Crafter's Toolbox where we work on our crafting skills just a few minutes at a time. Today we'll be looking at swatching out black and gray dye inks in order to understand the constituent colors that make up the overall color that you're looking at. When you stamp something, normally you don't have an issue with the color coming out mottled, but when you start adding water to it and watercoloring, you will start to see a color separation. So in this background here, this was all done using gray inks. No pink was used in the creation of this card, but there is pink all over the place. And that's because there's a lot of pink, red, and browns in these three colors from altenew. This is Silver Lake, Gray Denim, and Cloudy Night. And then I went ahead and used black on the base, and it has a lot of green and purple in it as well. So let's take a look at the swatches, and then I'll show you how I made the swatches so you can make some for yourself and see a few different ways that you can determine the colors that make up your grays and blacks. So I did up some swatches ahead of time, and I'm hoping that they come through really well in the video. This is Silver Lake, and I went ahead and did some watercoloring on the left-hand side here, and then I spread out the ink and I smushed it so I could kind of see what that would look like if I were to do that technique using it. I can see that there's a lot of green and pinks that make up the shade of gray. So I would expect moving into the next color, these are all from the same color family, that going into gray denim, I would probably see more grays and pinks and greens, and that's what I see. I see darker pinks and kind of almost a reddish peach color, and then a really dark green in here. And you can see that color separation in the swatch over here as well. When I moved to the Cloudy Night, I was really surprised to see that it had more of a brown tone. Coming from the same color family, you would expect there to be just more pink and green. Well, because that pink and green is so much, it turns into more of a brown shade. So it makes Cloudy Night a little more warm in tone, and the Gray Denim and Silver Lake more cool in tone. Then when I went to the jet black, there is a lot of green in the jet black, and you can really see that when I did the smushing technique over here. You can see it kind of mixed in and mottled on this side, but it really comes out over here. So let's just take a look at the jet black, and I will show you how I did this technique. So this is just 140-pound cold 140-pound cold press watercolor, and I just have a square stamped on here using some VersaFine. That is not going to run when I use my watercolors. So I'm just going to smush some of the jet black ink on here, and this is just water. I have all these fun little jars, so I just keep it in there. And as soon as I put just one drop of water on here, I can start to see that the color is separating. And you might start to see some green in there and some purples. And that's your first hint that this is going to give you those shades. And as I start to move this around, you'll see the separation. There's some purple here and green up here, and all those different colors come to be. So if I mix them really well together, even if I do that, and I say, oh, that looks like a pretty good black, I've got it all mixed together, it is still going to separate on the paper. The purple tones like to stick really well initially, and then the greens kind of come in behind it. So it almost looks like it fades from the purple to the green. And then as I add more ink to it, you might think that you're covering it up, but really it is going to end up with a mottled effect, much like this finished one here. So my second step then is to just spread this around a little bit and flip this over and just smush the ink in here. And I think this gives a really good idea of what your color separations are going to end up like. So once it dries, you'll really see the green and you'll see the purple separated out. Another way to tell is to just simply take a paper towel and dip this in here, and instantly you'll see the green around the edges and know that that is one of the constituent colors that makes up your shade of black or gray. And then what I see down here, especially because there's a lot of purple in there, it is that it's left a residue on the piece of plastic that I'm using. And that wipes up, so I know that that's not something that's going to stain this necessarily, but it is definitely a part of the ink. So there's that purple color and then the green color. And I have some ink still in here, and you can just kind of see that green coming out. And as I apply more water, you can see the purple separating out from the green. And that really gives you a good example of what you've got going on in your color. Another way to swatch, if you don't want to do these little cards, if you're just looking for a quick sample, is to just grab like a test strip. Take some of your leftover watercolor paper and just save it. Add a little bit of water and then just dip it in, and you'll see what kind of colors you get. And I can see, it may not come up in the video so much, but I can see there's some purples in here, and then there's some greens in here as well. Actually, let's go to the Cloudy Night, because that's a darker shade. It might show up a little bit better. And I'm trying to use the dropper because this helps control the amount of water that I'm adding every time. So there, I got one drop in play. And then I'll go ahead and put my watercolor paper in there. Let it soak up some of the color. And you can see that it's got a lot of brown in it. And if I go ahead and put this on my, you'll see, look at how pink that turns. And then what you see left over here is a lot of the green. So the colors have separated, and that's what will happen when you choose to watercolor with these. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It just gives you a different effect. And it could be something that turns into an unexpected surprise that really creates something stunning like this card did. I hope you enjoyed this little lesson in color separation for grays and blacks, and that it helps you to understand your crafting supplies a little better. I'll see you again at another Crafter's Toolbox, but until then, happy crafting.